Merciful, the compassionate. All praises to Allah, the creator of the universes and their sustainer, the provider of believers and unbelievers. And may His choicest blessings be on the seal of His prophets, the last of His messengers and His holy progeny, and in particular may His incessant blessings ever continue to flow on that 12th successor to the Holy Prophet, on the Imam of our time, on Sahibul Asri wal Zaman, Ajjalallahu Farajahu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Well, tonight the agenda we have set for ourselves is to consider that if the Imam alayhi salam is there, and we have considered how he performs miracles, is it possible to meet him at all? Because if he is there, then there must be examples of people who met him. At least to give some proof, some evidence of his existence, and to fulfill, as we saw in the last item of our discussions last night, to fulfill the duties of an imam. How does he achieve that? Well, the dogmatic answer over the centuries, because the ghaibah now runs into centuries, and over the centuries the consistent, uninterrupted answer has been that yes, he meets people and he fulfills their wishes, discharges his duties as the imam, and indeed meets them in person, one to one. And there are numerous examples. I cannot hope to cover them in a matter of 2 nights. I have deliberately set aside 2 nights for this particular agenda, as I mentioned on Monday night, and I have not had any request for amendments from you, so I'm sticking to that agenda, because in the course of that agenda I also wish to cover the various methods by which one can reach him. If he is accessible and one can meet him, then can one call upon him? Can one so organize that one can meet him? Although a definite appointment is not possible in Ghaibat al-Kubra as it was in Ghaibat al-Sughra. But a desire to meet him, a request to meet him, and those requests have also been fulfilled quite successfully. Well, I'm hoping to cover all that in the cover of these 2 nights, in which we meet between 8 and 9. And so the very first matter that I want to embark upon tonight is, if somebody is desperate and needs to meet him and needs treatment from him, it may be a sick person who needs treatment from him. When the 11 Imams alayhimus salam were physically present, it was possible to visit them. Indeed, there are examples of how Hazrat Amir alayhi salam, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain alayhimus salam and other Imams even visited sick people in their homes. Does this Imam alayhi salam do that? Are there examples? And there are a number of examples in our books that satisfy that particular requirement. I wish to set out at least one straight away on that point, and it comes from that pious person, Ismail Hassan Harkali, because he lived in Harkal in Iraq. And he says that this particular incident is reported by our scholar Arbali in his book Kashf al-Ghumma, extremely famous book Kashf al-Ghumma, and he sets out this episode in that book. Says that Ismail Hassan Harkali reports that when he was a young man, he sustained a wound in his right thigh. But instead of improving, as he grew older, the wound got deeper and deeper. And a stage was reached when, in winter, when it was cold, it would bleed, pus would come out from it, and he would be in a great pain and inconvenience and suffering. And so he visited the mujtahid of the time, the marja of the time, and that was Sayyid ibn Ta'us, an extremely famous name that we know till today with great respect. Sayyid ibn Ta'us decided that some doctors must be consulted, and doctors were consulted in Harkal and in Hilla. Sayyid ibn Ta'us was in Hilla, and Harkali moved to Hilla only to meet Sayyid ibn Ta'us. But the doctors gave an opinion that the wound had gone so deep that it was now touching a vein. And the wound needed to be cut out. But to do that, the fear was that even the vein would be cut out. And if the vein was cut, then there was danger to life. That was the opinion they gave, and suggested to Sayyid ibn Ta'us that Harkali be moved to Baghdad so that some Christian doctors there be consulted about his health. And so Sayyid ibn Ta'us organized all this and took him himself from Hilla to Baghdad, and those doctors were consulted, but they came to exactly that opinion and decided that it would be dangerous to operate on this gentleman. And so they said he must be left as he was. Now that was a sad news, both for Sayyid ibn Ta'us and for the patient. So Harkali decided he will not go back to his town, as he was already in Baghdad. He said, I'll go to Samarra. And Sayyid ibn Ta'us thought it was a brilliant idea. He says, yes, visit the Imams alayhi salam in the shrine, visit the basement of the 12th Imam alayhi salam, pray there, some good might come out of it, and when you come back to Harkal, let me know, I'll visit you, and you can report on the latest situation, and we can then decide what to do about your wound. And so they parted. Harkali comes to Samarra, and to cut a long story short, he visits the shrines and then goes to the basement, and decided he would spend the whole night in the basement. In those days, it was possible to do so perhaps. Now, as you know, it is not possible. After Isha, the basement is closed and is not opened till Fajr. However, Harkali managed to stay in the basement, spent the night in prayers, in supplications, and in supplicating to the Imam alayhi salam also, and pleading to the Imam to help him in his state and condition, saying that now there is no doctor in the world who can help me. My only help can come from you. And he kept weeping and spent the whole night until Fajr. After Fajr, when he left the basement, he decided he would go outside the town into the river, have a ghusl, and after ghusl, he washed his clothes, and then he decided he would enter the city again. As he was going back to Samarra now, entering the city, he saw the walls of the city. He decided to be along the wall of the city, so that ultimately to reach the entrance to the city. Suddenly, he sees 4 horsemen. 2 of them very young, 1 elderly, and between them was a youthful personality who was brilliant and shining, and a lot of light coming out from him. So he said, who would these be? And his first thought was, oh, these must be shepherds. Must be shepherds outside Samarra. And he thought the light from the countenance of this other personality must be the sun shining on him or so. But he found that these horsemen came right to him. And when they came right to him, he of course paused to listen to them. And this young shining person comes right next to him and says, Ismail, calls him by his first name. This absolutely astonished Ismail, because he thought he was coming to Samarra for the first time and nobody knew him. And yet he was being accosted by his first name. So he responds to the salam that was made, and this person says, Ismail, I understand you want to go back to your home tomorrow morning. And Ismail says, yes, that is indeed my intention, to go back by tomorrow. I'm here only for the day. And that say, this personality puts his hand on the shoulder, on the left shoulder of